Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Following my Sunday chat about doing things, it's now Sunday afternoon and I've decided to do something with this Hercoglossum. Now I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, so I don't know what I'm going to need. I'm just going to wing this, but as a consequence it might mean I have to keep breaking off to go and get things, if you see what I mean. But as you can see on this plant, there is zero new growth, but what there is some signs of some new roots just starting. So I'm going to take advantage of that. Now there are canes on here that ought to come off, but for the moment I'm just going to leave everything and you know, minimum stress is my idea. Now this is wired on, which is good because it means it will come off hopefully relatively easily. I must get some new wire cutters. These just don't cut anymore. The points don't come together properly. It'll cut thicker wire, it's the thin stuff it's not so good on. So if we cut up there, we should just be able to unwind this. In fact, I'm just going to cut it everywhere so that I can just lift the whole thing off. That's the theory anyway. Just take the back end off completely. I'm going to end up, there's buds on this plant, they're going to end up getting knocked. Hopefully most of them won't get broken, but you might well lose some. But at the moment, this plant is heading for a failure. It's getting close. Now when this comes off of this mount, providing it comes off reasonably easy, we might see why. Yeah, there's new roots coming in various places. Oh, this is absolutely jammed on. Now that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting this to come off quite easily. That could mean we've got a problem. Do I just cut it off? This is probably what the problem is. There's nowhere for any new roots to grow, it's just compacted. It's absolutely solid. How on earth am I going to get that off? There's no give in it at all. Absolutely no give whatsoever. I don't think it's the wire that's holding it on. But it's worth a try, isn't it? Take the wire off. Could be what's holding it. I don't think it is, but we try and pull that out and then see what happens once the wire's gone. Everything. That one down here. I don't think that's going to make a blind bit of difference. I'm going to go and get a blunt knife and just see if I can push a knife in under there and ease it away. I'll be back. There might be a bit of this. Right, brought some heavy duty stuff out. Worst comes to the worst, I will saw it off the mount. I may have to get in there and cut with those. And what I've done is I've bought, it suddenly dawned on me, my blunt knives are not strong. So although this is a sharp knife, it's a strong knife, it doesn't bend. So what I'm hoping to do is get this in underneath and sort of push it away from the mount in various places. It's also, I mean, it's cutting, you know, the roots are getting cut. And I think that's probably how I'm going to have to go. I'm just going to have to cut it off and just hope that new roots will grow. I've never had an orchid get stuck on a mount quite like this before. The problem I've got in this levering idea is my I must cut away from my hand because this has all the hallmarks of slipping, if you see what I mean. And if it slips, it is actually a sharp knife. It's a good way to lose a finger, or a chunk out of a finger. Right, how are you doing? It's difficult to imagine what's going on here, but the first thing I've discovered is this one isn't in live moss. This is in zombie moss. Now what I ought to do is now go and look that up in my notes and find out when this was done, because it may just be that the moss has gone off, and that's it, that's all that's wrong. And by getting this off and teasing the moss out and starting again, it might do the trick. That's if it's ever going to come off. Dear oh dear. Gotcha. Well, it's off. Yeah, it absolutely stinks of mushrooms. So I think therein lies the worst of the problem. It's the moss has gone off, and it's totally entangled with the roots. You can't see me teasing this out actually. We'll have a go. I might end up just having to just cut everything off down to a stump and let this plant regenerate the root system, because this is just solid. I've never come across a root system like this on a Dendrobium anyway. I'm just going to cut it off. I had a plant once that I bought, and it had obviously been cut from a tree, so it could have even come from the wild, who knows. And it had just literally had all the roots cut off half an inch below the plant. Every single one just chopped off. And that produced new roots quite well. I'm just digging at this, just seeing how much I can get off. And we will start again. I don't want to start again with all this old moss. I want the moss out of it if I can. I know this looks brutal, but if I put it in a pot with the old moss on, it'll just turn the new moss. So I'm going to get as much of it off as possible. And then, as I said, the plant should just regenerate roots from the base. Once that base can get into some decent media and stay hydrated as well, because I suspect the other thing that's possibly happening here is this is such a solid mass, it's not been being hydrated properly. The water's not been getting right in there, so the roots down in might not have been getting wet, given that it wasn't given much water in the winter anyway, not growing and all that. Not growing doesn't need lots of water. This is hard work. Most of these roots that I'm working with now are actually dead. and then you come across one with a little green shoot on. We'll try and leave him. I know it's only one, but you know, when there aren't many left that are working, they all count. You have to bear in mind a lot of the base of the plant is above this. Yeah, it's up here, and this is where the new roots are showing. Now if this goes in a pot and the media is put up round the base of the plant, those roots are going to go into the media. Now okay, it means the base of the plant will be sunk in a bit, which is a bit naughty, but once the roots get going and get down into the new media, it can be eased off of the base of the plant, you know, teased away. So I'm not going to do too much more now, I'm just tweaking to try and get it to open up a bit. It's just like a solid piece of wood. Well, this is not a healthy root system. Whatever's gone wrong with it, it needed undoing and given a chance. It's got no air in here at all. This is just a solid mass. So I suspect these roots have been dead some time in the middle here. Right. Whew. That was hard work. Right, so I've got a wide, shallow pot. Now this is going to look odd, but the canes will get lifted up like that, and that will get put in the pot, and I'm going to do something unusual for this type of orchid. I'm going to wire it in so that I can pull it down hard onto the media that's going to be underneath it. And the media that's going to be underneath it I will have to sort out. So we'll put that to one side, get all our instruments of torture out of the way. We've still got all our fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. They're all there. We haven't lost any digits. But that got sharpened on a stone only a few days ago. I did a bonsai air layer, so I had to cut a ring of bark off, and I wanted a very sharp knife so that, you know, less chance of it slipping. So that's the one I used, and I sharpened it all. Right, so there won't be anything going back on that mount. How strange, I've never known a set of roots go like that. Totally solid, almost turned to wood. Still, so let's get these bits of wire out. They don't go, actually they do now, come to think of it. And say I don't put the stuff out on the garden anymore, it goes in a bag and goes to landfill. So. Right, so we'll get rid of this, come back with some media and get this thing potted, and we'll see if it perks up. It's just a solid mass, and it does smell. I think therein lies the problem, you know. I'll say it's when you've got a plant on a mount and something's gone wrong underneath the plant, you can't see it. You don't know what's going on. You've got to take it off. And this will be one of quite a few, I think. I'll show you another one. This one, I was going to use this one as an example, and then I thought, well, if I mess about doing others, this one went on the live moss, and it started to grow roots, and they stopped growing, and the moss is dead now. But those roots are still capable of growing on. So what I'm going to do with this one is use that as an experiment, and take the moss off and remount it on the, you know, with the Besgrow sphagnum moss instead of this stuff, and then see if that perks it up. Because this should be happy on a mount. That should be happy on a mount, but the roots stop growing. There must be a reason. They don't like that moss. But that's not the reason for the problem with this one, because this one had the Besgrow type moss. So I just chuck everything in this bag now, and when it's full, it goes out in the dustbin. I know, seems daft, you know, a domestic appliance. I just go and get the Hoover. Just run the Hoover around in here. It's clean. It's not wet. If it was wet, it wouldn't work so good. But anyway, I'll be back. Right, let's see what we can do. I've put a piece of wire in the pot coming down through 2 holes so that I can pull that and just twist it once the plant's in place to make sure it's firm against the media. Now the media is that small bark and perlite and a fair bit of this moss, and this is my root generating mix, or the mix that goes with plants that need to stay moist for a bit. And this needs to stay moist for this growing season. When we get to the winter, this will not be a suitable mix for it, and I'd have to go incredibly careful with watering so that it's not too wet. But this particular Dendrobium, if I can get it to start growing again properly, it does grow on through the winter, it doesn't stop. So this mix, with care, will probably be okay. That's if it starts growing, you know, at a reasonable rate, which it may or may not do. But leaving it where it was, I don't think was an option. There's several reasons. So I'm breaking this up a lot smaller so that it mixes in well. And then we'll see what we've got. Right, so we want some on the bottom. The bit that's going to look odd is what we will do is we will now put a handful of this up in there with the moss so that I know that that little underside bit has got media on it. Just quickly move my fingers out of the way. Right, now what I'm going to do is put media over the top of the plant. Only loose, but I'm going to put it over the top of the plant so that those little new roots on the surface don't dehydrate. Unfortunately, I do have a bit of a problem here. I've buried my wire. That's not going to work, is it? Because I can't now get the wire over the top of the plant. Well, it was a nice theory, wasn't it? So we're going to have to do it the other way. We'll have to poke the wire up through the bottom. The reason I'm stopping is because I've run out of media with moss in and I need some more, so I'm going to have to break some more up. Still got the bark and the perlite, but the mossy bits sort of run out. Because there isn't any down there. There's a little big gap down there which we want some of that stuff in. Right. Down there. And then what I'm going to try and do is poke that wire up through the holes in the bottom, either side of the plant, and then pull the wire tight over the top of the plant to pull it down onto that media. This will be a bit fiddly, but it should work. I mean, there's no reason why this wire shouldn't go up through. There's not a major barrier in the way. So there's one. That's the problem with the thin wire, of course, the end bends over. Right, so that's one, gotcha. And the other one needs to come over here, about there somewhere. That's so thin, this stuff, it's just bending rather than going up through. Gotcha. Right, so that's my two ends. Now we just come up between the canes. pinch any. So yeah, this is what I do with bonsai to wire them in the pot. There's more than one reason with the bonsai, because they're outside in the wind and they're top heavy, i.e. it's a tree, and the wind catches that top, and it's very, very easy to blow it so hard that it would blow the tree out of the pot. And if that happened on a hot sunny day when I wasn't around, those roots would die in the sun. So we wire them in, make sure they're in there nice and firm. Right. Just pull this reasonably tight. Can't go too mad because it's very thin wire. It'll just snap if I pull it too hard. But it's just to hold the plant in place, really. That should have got it. Right, oh, my back. Ugh. I'm thinking my back's fine, it's far from it really. Keeps twinging. It's alright for a bit and then it twinges again, so it's coming and going. I'll live. Filling in gaps now. Hopefully we'll get some root growth. There is a bit of greenery on this plant, but so little. Right, so that'll do. Good watering now, and I've got to try and find somewhere to put that now. That's light as a feather, obviously, because I run the water out. But any new growths now will grow straight up. You know, they'll grow upwards, they won't try and hang over. But eventually they will. And if we get this new growth, towards the end of the year, after the blooming and everything, and I can see what's what, a lot of these older, you know, bloomed out canes like this, you know, and this one's even broken. That could come off now. Find me scissors. But yeah, there's a lot of canes that are completely bloomed out. They're never going to bloom again. You can tell by the colour a lot of the time. You know, they've gone orange. And then you just look at them and you sort of think, well, that one's got buds on and it's got leaves, so we'll keep that. This one has got bud stumps all the way over it, so that's not going to bloom again, so that one can come off. You just got to sort of study them. They can bloom at least halfway down the cane. That's a dead cane completely, so that can come off. This just makes room for new growth basically. That's a dead cane. See, ones like this, it's bloomed from there right down to there. It's not going to bloom again. That's probably 3 years worth of blooms on that cane. It's earned its keep. So has that one. And by thinning these out, there won't be a temptation for the plant to push any energy down these canes to try and keep them plumped up, because they're not there anymore. All that energy will go to useful canes. And that's a possibility, that could bloom again. That one's highly unlikely. An orange base. So this is clearing out this side quite nicely now. The rest of it's not going to be so easy. But I'm just going to do this now. I've started, so I'm just looking for dead canes and ones that have bloomed out. Dead canes can be because they've broken, got damaged, but it's these that have bloomed right the full length and are big, clumsy canes getting in the way of everything else. They get caught on everything because of the straggly bits where the dead bloom spikes are. So that's got buds on, so is that. Like that one. That's got buds at the base. Got to be careful, because what looks like a dead cane, you give it a bit more looking and suddenly you see little green bits. You sort of think, actually that's buds. Yeah, we're getting to the canes now where nearly all of these canes have actually got buds on, or bud stumps. And quite honestly, most of the canes that have come off around this part of the plant, this part of the plant's still active. So even a manky old cane like this, look, it's got buds. So I'm going to leave it at that, or I'm going to end up taking good canes off now. So that's good. We've got some leaves, so there's a bit of photosynthesis going on, but not a lot. We've got no new growth showing, but we do have some signs of new roots growing at the base of these canes on top of that pad, not underneath, which is why I've put the media all around the base of the canes. And we'll see what happens. As I said, that needs a good watering before anything else. Give it a good soak. And then I've got to try and find somewhere to put it, because wherever that is, it's going to be in the way. Guaranteed, it will be in the way, it will catch on other plants, it's going to be a flipping nuisance. I can't hang it anywhere. I don't know. Oh, I can see where it can go. Where the Cymbidiums were before they went outside is the ground floor of that tall rack over there. There's now nothing on that, so it can go there. I know that's on the floor. That might sound odd for a Dendrobium that likes reasonable light, but that is very bright. It's got glass on two sides. It's right on the edge. So let's pour some water through. And then we'll put that in its new home, and we might have to apply that logic to several others in some sort of similar form. But we'll see what this one does. I'd hate to lose that plant. I mean, that plant looks worse now than it ever has. I mean, I bought that donkeys years ago from, I think that came from the Orchid man in the Netherlands, probably 7, 8, maybe 9 years ago, as a few canes, and it's done well ever since until now. So let's see if it will pick up now and we get something out of it. Oh. Right. Oh. While I'm in the mood, I'm going to do that one I said I was going to do, because I've got the moss here, I've got the water there. So let's get a bit more moss into soak. All I'm going to do with this is change the moss. I'm going to take off what was the live moss, because it no longer is, and change it for this sort. And see if those roots will start growing. The only difference with this is I want to try and save the wire, because it's a big piece. So that the wire can get reused effectively. So I'm going to unmount this, because it's not attached, I don't believe it is. And we'll remount it with the other type of moss. So I'm just trying to find the ends of the wire here. Gotcha. See, what we've got here, look, is the shriveled roots that were old and tired have shriveled. That's lack of hydration. And these roots have got active growing tips. They need to get into something rather than dead moss. So I'm not going to do anything other than put that back on with that type of moss this time. and I will have some moss underneath, not a lot, so that those root tips go straight into something. And if they start growing again, they'll go through the moss and attach the other side of the moss, if you see what I mean. So that's my green shoot. That needs to turn upwards. So that needs to go about there. So we'll put some moss underneath. Sort of there. I hope all this is on camera and I hope the battery hasn't run flat. I'm looking at what I'm doing rather than what I'm filming, if you see what I mean. I'm just relying on the fact that the camera's pointing generally in the right direction, which is where I started, so it should be okay. Right. I don't want to go too mad on the moss. This is actually Glomerulatum. This is a drier in winter and is generally accepted to be pretty temperature tolerant, but prefers to grow cooler. It'll put up with heat, but it prefers to grow cooler. There's a sort of difference between a cool grower and one that prefers to be cool, which means you can get away with some heat. Now I haven't got that heat now, so I'm not particularly worried. But right, so we've got some moss over the top of those root tips and some moss underneath the roots this time round. Right, let's try my hand a bit here, and then we'll just rewrap the wire around. All the old moss is attached to the wire. Right, so what we'll do now is find our wire end, which is there, around the back, come tight to the plant, and roots, and then come round underneath the plant. So we've got the top of the plant now, and we come round underneath the plant, underneath that cane, and across that load of moss and that load of roots, and then down there with that load of roots. And that will probably do it. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think we're okay. We've got as I said, I wanted those root tips to get into moss immediately. A few of these tatty roots hanging out the end I'm not fussed about. They're old, tired and, well, borderline dead, quite honestly. Now that plant is sticking out sideways a bit. I don't know why it wants to do that. Let me just straighten it up a bit. There we go. Right. And we'll just twist our ends round, and that'll do. Pliers, all I do is just twist like that and just give it a good twist, tighten it up like that. When it gets that it's nice and straight, that's good enough. Just cut the tatty ends off, and then what I do is I go round and I press the wire, and it pushes it into recesses and alcoves and tightens it up. And the most important place that you can tighten up is, this type of bark is always that shape. Well, if you push it into there, it pulls the front tight. And then everything's tightened up now, and the plant is well and firmly held. So there we go. Now we've got some root tips that are active, they're green. They've got moss to grow into. And let's see if that gets going. Unplanned. Right, clean up the mess time yet again. Not too much water left either. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got 7 of those left, so well over a week's worth. I've only just watered all the pots, and they only get done every 6 or 7 days because a lot of them have been repotted and have got moss in the pots. They hold their water now, so I don't have to water so often. There's some that haven't been done yet, but a lot have. Right, so a little bit of... Now when this is going to get posted I really don't know, because this is now Sunday afternoon. Tomorrow, if I post anything at all, is probably going to be some of the stuff from Burnham's. So this might not get posted till Tuesday or even Wednesday possibly, but I'll put it in the description that it hasn't just been filmed, it was filmed on Sunday, so you know, so by the time it gets posted it'll be an older video. Anyway, one rescue and one experiment to see if roots will progress much better than what they were doing with what once was live moss that has since died because of the drier periods in the winter. So we'll see what happens. If those roots get going and I can reasonably quickly find out that this moss drying off in the winter is the problem, then all of those mounts will have to be redone. And I won't have enough of this, that's for sure. And I've got some more of that coming at Malvern, which is only 3 weeks away, so we're not desperate yet. So anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.